Hey, Peyton, nice to see you again on this beautiful day. And this time with a quote by Sahil Bloom, where he says, "A mentor told me this: always assume things will work out, then do the work to make it true." I found the combination creates a quiet confidence that allows you to tolerate uncertainty better than anything else. I'll never forget that. Peyton, how do you assume that things will turn out well and doing the work to make it true? How does that help you to trust more in the process?
Good to be back, my friend. Yeah, I do think this is an important two sides of a balance to hold, or an important golden mean for us to find in a world of uncertainty. And I think that uncertainty is kind of the name of the game for all of us these days. There used to be that certain people had much, much more uncertainty than others, namely those with skin in the game. And now it feels like with how much the world is changing, and particularly with the shifts of technology and artificial intelligence, that uncertainty is not optional for anybody. Everybody has uncertainty. Everybody has exposure to a dramatically shifting and changing world for the better and for the worse, and maybe for the worse and then for the better. And maybe it will go through phases, and who knows what path is ahead. And none of us have actually walked this path all the way from start to finish before. And so we're all kind of figuring out what's going to unfold together. And so having a decent recipe for how to hold uncertainty and continue to function and continue to be productive and continue to find psychological balance is essential. And now it's not just essential for 10% or 20% of people, but it's essential for all of us. And so how do we do it? And I do think that the one important place that we want to stay is in the flow, is in this zone of being productive while we're being flexible and moving forward while we are keeping our eyes open to the right direction. Because it's not necessarily like 50 years ago when you could just set a course and the winds stay steady and you know where you're going and you know the map and you know the start and the finish point, and so you just have to stay on the line. The line is now curvy and meandering probably for all of us. And so assuming everything will work out is kind of an antidote to the panic of not being in control, in my opinion. And I think importantly for me, assuming everything will work out doesn't mean assuming that everything will go exactly according to my plans. These are two completely different things. And so that's
Mhm.
the nuance I'd paint in it. Assuming everything will work out means that I assume that even if this upcoming thing that I want doesn't happen, or even if this upcoming thing that I don't want does happen, even if I shift radically and my life is different in such and such a way, or I lose something that it seems really essential to me right now, that still things will work out, that things will work out even if things don't go according to plan. That's the layer I would put on top of this. This doesn't mean assume that ultimately you're in control and everything is going to happen according to your wishes and exactly right on time and you're going to predict the future perfectly. That's off the table. I think assuming things will work out is a broader context than that. What does a broader context of working out mean? What is the true wide angle lens that lets us see things working out even if our near-term plans don't go according to plan?
Well, thanks for sharing. And the first thing that comes to my mind is the cosmic insignificance therapy. The way of changing your perspective so dramatically that you zoom out so widely that your life and your problems seem very tiny compared to the cosmic scale of other things, to the cosmic scale of cycles which happen during our lifetimes, cycles which are bigger than our lifetimes, or the whole process of evolution, which took place like millions and millions of years in a timeline which is just vast beyond our grasping. So, but yeah, how do you do that if you're not able to detach that much? How do you do that if you have responsibility for a family, if you have responsibility for people you love, or for your business to work out? Then there's also the other way around. You can zoom in so much as to go the next best step, to place yourself in the midst of chaos, look around, orient yourself, and take in the truth, as painful as it is, and think about it, and get together with people who are believable, and get in contact and in interaction with the people who already went through similar situations. And then gather your insights and plan your actions, and then do the next best step, one step at a time. So it is actually both the zooming out as far away as possible and zooming in as close as you can get to the point which pains. And from there, not only assuming the things will work out because other people lived through aeons as well, and civilizations rose and fell down and decayed again, but you do the work to believe that you are going on a path where there's a lot of best next steps, because you always need to go deep in if it's a chaotic world. If it's a VUCA world, like a volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and maybe ambiguous,
Hmm,
a world we live in which changes so
familiar.
dramatically. Yeah, there we definitely need to be agile and take initiative and take responsibility. And that thinking, zoom out, zoom in, and then actually acting it out, this is a helpful tool, in my opinion. Payne, do you know other tools which are helpful in not only assuming things will work out, but also in really getting the things down to the ground and making them work, getting them
Mm,
running?
yes, yeah. I do wanna highlight the word agility that you mentioned. I think that that is a trait that will serve us greatly. We really do need to be flexible in our movements, and there's a bit of a counterintuitive nature of wanting to apply a lot of life force in a direction and apply a lot of momentum, while actually we're way better off being bendy when we do it because we can apply points of leverage. We can identify bottlenecks. We can work on the new thing that actually is an opportunity 10 times greater for influence than what we were going to do. And we can identify opportunities that might not have existed 6 months ago or 12 months ago or whatever. And there is this interesting thing that clenching our fist too hard and trying to control reality too hard and trying to mandate that things will only be okay if I get my way about this thing right in front of me. This robs us of our power. This robs us of our agency in reality. And this is an empirical claim that we're making. It's like, pay attention. When we're in the state of clenched fists, are you actually influencing reality as well as when you're in a state of flow? Definitely not, in my experience. I've run this experiment 100 times. And when I'm in this like shut down, clenched up, like just taking blows and trying to force things head on without a wide view, then I'm doing things the hard way and I don't actually push on the momentum in a positive way in as many places that are needed. And I can't stave off the forces of entropy here while I gain momentum over here and I get overwhelmed. This is the typical result of this way of being. So how do we maximize our agency? And it's somewhat there's a bit of a samurai mode that we kind of want to find to this in the sense that to cut through the most effective way, we do want to have this state of radical trust. This is how we can maximize our agency because instead of shutting down, narrowing down, blinding our view, now we can see, which is important. We can receive guidance, which is essential because if we're not receiving guidance, then a lot of times it's just our left brain running the show that gets more and more delusional and less reality based and calcifies in its movements and in its ways and in its methods and in its priorities. But actually, if we see with wide eyes, which somehow requires some state of openness to receiving and perceiving reality, then we can receive the right direction. And when we receive the right direction and the insight and the unlock of, oh, I can get actually 10 times more results if I go and do this thing rather than just keep trudging up this same inertia path that I was on. Then the last thing is we need to flow. We need to actually receive energy, receive creativity, and allow it to channel through us in order to bear our best fruit in our work and maximize our agency and our influence. That includes in our interpersonal stuff. If I want to lead other people, then actually letting go of control of their reactions allows me to perceive and flow and say just the right thing in the right moment and to observe myself saying it at the same time that it comes out of my mouth. And the results are 5 times bigger and it takes less energy and it's more renewable, but it requires a state of trust. It requires a state of trust. In terms of the tools, the way of being, or the fruits, what else feels central to you in this equation of this actually? Oh, and also what enables us to have trust. I'll throw my little 2 cents in there is the spiritual side of things, the widest possible context for everything that's going on. This is foundational for me personally. Viewing everything that happens as the unfolding will of God is a hugely important foundation for me to come to this trust and this acceptance and this alignment with the flow of reality. I'm curious what else comes to mind for you in this foundation of believing everything will work out in the end.
Well, it is a belief that we have to cultivate. And not only a belief, but also collecting the evidences in our past or in other
Yeah.
people's past where it worked out and comparing selected experiences in our past where we stressed out about a thing which didn't turn out the way we stressed out about it, or where we just accepted a thing and it turned out even better than we ever imagined. So, also gathering this reflection from your life also helps in shaping the way you look at the world, the way you approach challenges. And a pattern emerges because our minds are our brains are prediction machines and they look for patterns and then they predict what also may happen according to our experiences or the things we experienced from other people's stories. The pattern is that if we do the work and then step back, it doesn't matter that much how much we stress out about it. But if we don't do the work, then it doesn't matter how much we stress out about it neither, because the outcome is often dependent on our inputs to it. And if it's not dependent on it, then it is not worth in the first place stressing out about it because we can't control it. So it is about dissecting whether we can control something or we cannot control something and taking our position in we do what we can so that we reach our next best step. Then we have the reason to really trust because we do the work and then step back. If then we can trust as well, it's just harder to trust because we are not living up to what is possible for us to do to make it work.
Mm.
So it is an untapped potential. And if there's untapped potential, our doubts also increase more. But if there's the potential and we tapped into it and we grounded everything we could, then there's no need to stress out about it anymore. That's the thing. Try to
Mm.
find out where you can control things. Try to differentiate that from the things you can't control. Don't attach to the outcome, but do the work which actually helps you in staying on top of your locus of control.
This is the art of agency maximization. If we want something, then really we're tempted to try to get what we want or push away what we don't want by tightening our grip as much as possible or even resisting what's outside of our control as much as possible. And to maximize our agency, first of all, this control thing is helpful. And where do we control things? It's not in the past, I promise.
Yeah.
So if we realize we're spending a lot of energy on regret, we can know that we are not maximizing our agency by doing that. Accepting the past is a foundation of actually accepting what's outside of our control. Because the past always, 100% of the time, and I've checked a lot of times, the past is
Mm.
always outside of our control. The other thing though is reframing the situation that we're in or what it means to maximize our agency. I find that the temptation that we face over and over and over and continually recalibrate ourselves from is that we start off in this framing of to avoid what I want to control, I need to tense harder, and I need to resist harder, and I need to struggle harder. But actually, if we really pay attention, okay, what is the maximal agency thing? It's really about, okay, what is the best influence that I can push toward this situation? And what are the conditions under which that influence will arise? That influence will come from better direction, better insight, better creativity, and more better output and higher quality output, better strategy, and more throughput of us manifesting stuff, whether it's communication, influencing of others, creating things, putting things in place, integrating things, building systems, or whatever it is. More of all that stuff that actually pushes the world in the right direction on the right fronts, and we prioritize those fronts so that they're momentum gaining. This is the best we can do, actually. And struggling and resisting and clenching and all that stuff, it feels like actually what we should do. It's like there's some almost like a channel that we fall down in a rut, and we get in that rut, and it feels like it's where gravity leads us. But it's not actually where we're cruising the most and where we're maximizing our agency. And so I think that this I think resistance is what I would boil it down to. Resistance or clinging or craving. I think these ways of being, they feel like actually what pulls us into them is a deep alignment with what we want or avoiding what we don't want. And so it's very natural that we find ourselves here. But actually these ways of being do seem to rob our power and our agency if we're not able to hold them loosely or gently in order to allow the flow to move us with the maximal agency for what's here now. And I do think that one rule of thumb is we shouldn't spend too much time struggling against wanting the past to be different. As
Mhm.
kind of a note to self. Yeah.
Yeah. Note to self, yeah. Accept everything which has been because there's no way you can change it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no way. Also not
Yeah.
in the future. No, it's like there's no way you can change the past, so you better accept it. This the thing about working with trauma or working with disappointments in the past. There is sometimes this attachment to the former version of a person who you related to dearly, and then this feels then like if you release this energy, if you release your trauma, if you release your grip on the past, that it feels like you betray that former person. So this is also tricks on the minds which these, let's say, energies or systems play on us. And we also have to be aware in praying for the wisdom to be able to decide whether we can control something or not, because it requires discernment. It requires this, and so many people can tell you about, oh, you don't have any control after this or that point in time. Once you have children, you cannot travel anymore any longer. Once you work, you retire. Oh, once you retire. All these stories that people tell themselves. We have to be well aware of which stories have an influence upon our belief system and about our narratives that we tell ourselves about what is possible and what is not. So, as far as I know, the only limits if a thing is possible or not are within the laws of physics. And if it's not according to the laws of physics, then don't try to solve the problem. All problems which are solvable and well within the realm of physics, you should try to solve them because they are solvable. So this is a this is a very simple razor, but this is pretty empowering to think about because you can solve anything which physics does not allow.
Mm.
So therefore it's about choosing what we really want to solve. And then we have to think about, okay, is it really what we want or is it what we see what other wants and therefore we want it as well? And we come back to the self-reflection part of it. But then as well, as I told you in our conversation before, there's if we work on one bottleneck, another bottleneck will for sure
Yes.
be showing up at some other place. And therefore If we know what we want and we self-reflect, and then maybe we lose ourselves in analysis and don't do that much. So that's why this trust and this confidence in moving forward always requires your belief system as well as your agency and your actions. Always in this combination, because only then you can have this closed feedback loop, which is essentially an error correction mechanism you can deploy, and learning from whatever reality shows you reflects back to you. And with the new learning, you can take the new insights, position yourself differently, take different actions, and then gather the next learning. So it's about closing the feedback loop between thinking and acting, reflecting and changing your position, and
Mm.
being agile and having agency.
And my last note on the belief system part, I think that a lot of times I'm tempted to look for solace and look for trust in the unfolding of reality, in a clear figuring it out. And it's like I want the answer to be in the form of me knowing how everything will work and just having all the answers and seeing the future. But it doesn't arise that way in reality. We won't be comforted by the time that we finally get to the bottom of everything. It's not going to we're not going to get there. That's a mirage that will vanish on the horizon and continue receding. And so really I think we are after in some ultimate antidote, a peace that surpasses all understanding and a trust that surpasses our own control or ability to control. A giving ourselves to the whims of fate or the whims of fortune or the unfolding of the divine. And so look at the birds of the sky. They neither toil nor reap, yet your father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Look at the lilies of the field. They neither spin nor whatever. They don't make clothes, and yet here they are adorned beautifully.
Mhm.
If this is how your father treats the birds of the sky and the grass of the field, will he not much more provide for you? And have trust. I think this is the foundation of being able to open ourselves in vulnerability to the dynamic and uncontrollable whims of a very vastly changing environment, to surrender ourselves to destiny while we still allow the full life force of our being to flow through us in action and in awareness and in consciousness, to receive guidance and to move through it. This highest level of context and trust in the divine, this surrender and knowing that I am in the hands of God ultimately. And even if this bad thing that I think I don't want happens, I still in that way. And this giving ourselves to what is, this giving ourselves to what will be, this radical trust in our in our lack of understanding of the divine unfolding. I think this is the foundation of the highest agency in the most difficult storms of our life. When it's really hard, when the ship is really rocking and the waves are 100 feet tall, this is where we can fall back into. And I think learning to fall back into that, to trust into that, to let go and say, I am completely vulnerable and I completely trust in the divine. I think this is a source of being able to receive from the source when we need it most. Any
Mm.
final thought? And that's by the way is my intention for this week. I need that. I need
Mhm.
to remember this. I sometimes I come back, sometimes I lose sight of this, and I really see that this is the medicine that I need right now in my life. What about you? Any final thoughts, intentions about this conversation?
Well, very similarly, living with an open heart
Yeah.
and making myself vulnerable to a point where I really immerse myself into the challenges that I face, and also grow from there. Because my two goals for the years is learning how to build better and how to sell better, and I'm low on the selling part actions that I take. So it is about learning and growing, but with an open heart, trusting in the flow. This is my intention for this week, man.
Beautiful thing, my friend. So good talking to you about this. I appreciate the
Likewise,
conversation
man.
as always.
As always, see you soon. Thank you very
See you
much.
soon.
Appreciate it.